All right. We are on our latest. I don't even know how to do intros. I know how to do outros. We're on our latest video. There we go. Respecting your peers and more intelligent, your superiors that have educated themselves beyond what you're capable of, essentially. And that can go to so many different categories, but in a nutshell, they worked harder. And most of the time, you're just saying, well, you're just some guy in a suit, some woman who, is in a good position. You probably, cheated your way there or something like that. You just got these basic premonitions of what they are based on what you believe reality is, or you saw in a fucking movie or read in a book, but it's not the case. It's like some of these people work their entire lives, to get where they're at. Tirelessly working through school and different jobs and so many ins and outs, just grinding each day. And somehow, they got through it. And they have a lot of wisdom on the other side. And I'm trying to speak from the base. Let's say, because I was formerly homeless. People from that point of view don't understand the hierarchy of society in a way of, well, there's upper class, lower class, and middle class. It's not, and they take it as an emotional statement, like it's about status. And I don't care what you think you are, you want to look like. It's what you actually are capable of underneath as a person. What your values are. Your values can be the same as mine. You're just smarter than me. And that's a beautiful thing. I might just be on the more emotional spectrum. You're on the more logic and constructive criticism. Or you're an engineer. You're a mathematician. You just happen to have similar values to mine. It's just your aptitude for learning is completely different. My aptitude for learning is emotional reasoning. So I have to work around that. And I've had to dig deep and expound on the logic side of myself to be able to even have a glimpse of understanding the more logic-focused mind. I'd say even keel type mind. They are a mystery and they are fascinating to me. And they're the one types of people I love to spend time with and just understand and study them a little bit. But at the same time, respect. It's like, it goes both ways. Then you gotta respect you from where you're coming from, where you're at, of course, but for you to think for a minute that you are superior based on ego, based on who you think you are. Like, you don't know who I am, you don't know what I've done. Like, okay, let's actually look at the track record for a second. You did drugs, you've done, terrible things, and you've done some amazing things. You worked a few jobs, you've been in a lot of relationships, your life is actually really unstable, and the reason is you feel inferior. And that's okay. It's maybe look up and take some notes. Take a small piece of, trying to be different. And this goes back to the first video that I made, talking about acceptance of consistency, acceptance of small things. Doing any kind of task that is good for you, even if you don't think it's good for you, is outside of yourself, outside of your mind, which challenges your mind and understimulates the dopamine, which lowers your need to feel fulfillment in the ego. So essentially, you're bringing in a whole new type of thinking like force feeding it, reprogramming yourself. It's scary. It's confusing. You're like, what the fuck is happening to me? But then you have these moments of just clarity. Moments of absolute, I'd say, profound thinking. And then it goes away again. And I dare say these people can be aggressive. The logic mind will be aggressive if they see a reason to. If they see a meaning or a motive to push you outside of your own comfort zone to make you think in a way that is more constructive. And that's not to say that the emotional mind isn't constructive. I'm not saying that at all. Do not get that confused. What I'm getting at is that in some cases, the emotional mind can actually be really great, I'd say, in times of, I'd say, where we break down who we are in front of each other. I'd say during times of death, during times of need of liberation emotionally, or if we need to cry, we need to process things that are just, I'd say, on that level that even the constructive logical mind needs, it craves, because it can't always expound or create that for itself. I'd say these extraordinary connections to energy around you, small glimpses, I'd say, for them, are what drives them. It's what makes them want to talk to you. And there's those extreme cases where someone's too logical or someone's too emotional, and you have a war. And one of them breaks, or they change. They either have a breakdown or a breakthrough in the relationship. Breakdown meaning they leave each other, they can't work together. Or they meet each other halfway and they adopt behaviors almost just simulating, just kind of, I'd say, celebrate or elaborate the idea of each other, even if they love that person is who they are and that person loves and respects that other person. It's like, you might have a different opinion, but you function perfectly fine as an individual. So I respect you as an individual, even if your opinion is different than mine. And that, I feel, is the precipice of emotional understanding. That it is at its maximum capacity for empathy, which is absolutely, I'd say, groundbreaking in intelligence towards empathy towards anyone. If you were to say to somebody else, I love you so much that I respect your decision no matter what, because I love you and I love that you are trying to do what's best for you despite my disagreement, despite how I feel. That's really big of somebody. That's really broad and difficult to process for some people. But I'd say you need a type of logic in your mind to be able to have emotional complexity on that level. And to reach emotional complexity on a higher plane requires a lot of discipline. I'd say research. I'd say even exploring your subconscious to really unbound itself based on attachments that you feel you need to feel fulfilled. And that fulfillment is, again, why the emotional mind clings to wanting to feel bigger and better. So you can't want to own or feel bigger and better than that person who's making a decision based on logic, based on what is good reasoning. So back to the statement I made, talking about respecting your peers. So even just if they're not necessarily more intelligent, they're very similar to you. They just happen to be more advanced in years. It's different than, it's okay, well, they're the same age and they're in a different position. They're just naturally more adept, and that's okay. But I don't think you should worry about what they're better at, but worry about what you're good at. Expand on your skills. You don't need to have an identity based on others, but based on the fact that you are good at what you're good at. And you can develop yourself, and over time, that long-term investment of thought and practice, like I said, consistency, being constant, has a longer-term effect on the mind. And that is what I'm getting at with your peers. They're trying to teach you that as well. They see where you're at. They see, I see a younger version of me that I could mold, but they have to have you be willing to push yourself in that direction. And you have to understand the circumstances and stakes that are at play to be able to develop yourself into that type of person. And you're never going to be the same. You're always going to exceed or fail your master. And that is life. Life is not necessarily a person or just a few people. It's many obstacles and events on top of those people that are occurring. Every person that brings you down, every enemy, every single time somebody says, "You can't do this. What are you playing at? Go back home. Go back to the job you were at. What are you trying to do with your life? You're not going to make it." I've been told these things growing up. Genuinely have been fed the lie that I'm not good enough, that I can't be who I am. And I sat there and asked myself the hardest question I think I could ever ask, anyone could ask themselves, is, can I do it just because I'm good at it? Not because of what anybody thinks about that task or that skill or where it should go. Can I take this outside of reality for a second? And that's confusing for a minute. Can I take it and extract it from reality and save it for another time? Save it for a time that I'm waiting for to develop again, when I know it's safe, when I know my development is nurtured. And there's never been a perfect time, I don't feel like. And I think those challenges where you feel like, okay, I can't focus, I can't study, I can't be who I want to be. I'm just constantly listening to outside input. And not to say that outside input is bad, it's definitely not. It is very much constructive and healthy to ask, what do you think of this? And accept the constructive criticism and be willing to change or adjust that plan based on the practicality or tangibility of that said thing you're trying to work on. And again, then in turn, you just went from respecting your elders to becoming someone who's developed over months. Now people are able to respect and look up to you, look towards you for answers and say, okay, I feel like I can trust that you can take responsibility in these tasks. Where did you get this from? And you can never go, hey, it was my ego, like before, the emotional reasoning. No, you set all of that aside for a second. Just ask the hard logic question for a minute, and you are at peace. I'm just good at this. I'm just capable. I'm proud of myself. And this revelation alone, I'd say in psychology, where you say, I'm proud of myself because I worked on this, I achieved this, and it's made me a better person. It's made me a stronger, wiser human being than before, where I was this, I'd say, anxious, emotional, I'd say roller coaster, kind of attacking or pointing fingers and not really recognizing your true potential. And your true potential is never going to be truly revealed until you set aside a lot of what you are doing that's getting in your way. And I saw this thing by Jordan Peterson that said, for you to truly be happy, part of you has to die. Part of you has to grow in a new way. So you have to kill, I'd say, the ego, but also the parts that are just not serving you, the cards that are not serving you. And even if they're there, I'd say, like somebody who has a disorder or an addiction, those addictions are always going to be there. They're always going to haunt you and be in the background. But to undertone them or lessen the feeding of those things and feeding things that are healthier, even if they are scary, makes your mind stronger and better and more resilient at solving problems. And again, this makes you a more whole and logical human being than before. Okay, so I know that was very intense and very forward how I said all of that, but that's just that category of topic. That's how I feel about it. So that emotional tone I put into it is my genuine grasp or comprehension of all of it. And that's something I live with every day, that I try to think through, try to adopt and adapt and apply to how I treat people and how I treat myself. And I really hope this helps you guys. Like, I'm just going to keep making these videos. I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. I'm just going to work on my skill here and just keep trying. And my next video, I think I want to talk about, I'd say, taking care of things that are outside of your trauma. That's going to be the next video. So it's like going away from the trauma that you're trying to solve because you're not able to solve it right now, and solving it at another time based on using other techniques that get you away, get you mentally traveled to a different place in your mind to be able to come back to the darkness that's haunting you a tiny bit or a lot. It depends on the trauma, of course. So that's going to be the next video. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys are having a great day or night. I used to say that all the time as my outros. And I hope you guys are blessed and that you guys are finding success daily, and whatever you're doing, just keep pushing. Do not stop. Do not give up ever. I mean that. All right. Bye.